Salt Lake City stands as a place shaped less by chance than by intention. It rose in a wide valley beneath distant mountains, formed by belief, discipline, and isolation. Its streets were planned before its buildings were finished. Its future was imagined long before it was secure. Few American cities were built with such deliberate order or tested so early by scarcity, conflict, and distance from the centers of power. This film uses AI reconstruction to bring that early city back into view. Historical photographs, maps, and written records are used as reference points, slowly rebuilt into moving space. What remains today is familiar. What once stood here was quieter, more fragile, and more controlled. If this approach to history feels valuable, you may choose to follow the channel. The work will continue, patiently. When Salt Lake City was still young, it existed as a settlement more than a city. The land was dry and alkaline, bordered by the Great Salt Lake to the northwest and mountain ranges on all sides. Water arrived through narrow streams diverted by hand-dug canals. Trees were scarce. Timber had to be hauled down from the slopes. The air was clear, but the winters were long and exacting. The settlement was organized around a central square. Streets were wide, laid out in a grid that seemed oversized for the number of people living there. Blocks were large. Homes sat back from the road, surrounded by gardens, fences, and irrigation ditches. The plan reflected both caution and permanence. This was meant to last. Political authority and religious authority were closely connected. Leadership was centralized. Decisions about land, labor, and movement were made with collective survival in mind. Compared to older cities along the eastern seaboard, Salt Lake City felt restrained and inward-looking. There were no ports, no international merchants, no inherited wealth. Its growth depended almost entirely on those who chose to stay. By the late 19th century, the population increased steadily. Wagons arrived from the east and south following established trails. Newcomers brought skills, tools, and expectations shaped by other places. Some stayed only briefly, others settled and adapted. The city expanded outward, block by block, as farms and workshops filled the grid. Industry arrived slowly. There were mills powered by water, blacksmith shops, tanneries, and small manufactories. The soundscape was modest but constant: sawing wood, hammering iron, wagons moving along dirt streets. The air carried dust in summer and smoke in winter. The city was busy, but not chaotic. Railroad connections began to change the rhythm of daily life. Goods moved faster, news arrived sooner. Salt Lake City became less isolated, though it remained distinct. Migration increased, and with it came new languages, customs, and tensions. The population grew denser near the center, while the edges remained open and agricultural. By 1870, Salt Lake City was no longer an experiment. It was an established urban center of the interior West. Its buildings were simple but solid. Brick replaced wood where possible. Public structures rose slowly, built to endure rather than impress. The city moved with a steady confidence, shaped by rules, faith, and geography. The valley held the city in place. The mountains watched silently. What came next would test both the design and the people who lived within it. As the city matured, its sense of order became more visible. Streets aligned precisely with the cardinal directions. Addresses were measured from the center outward, reinforcing the idea that everything radiated from a single origin. Public buildings occupied prominent spaces, not for display, but for function. The city did not seek grandeur, it sought stability. Daily life followed predictable patterns. Mornings began early. Men and women moved between homes, fields, workshops, and meeting houses. Children walked long distances along wide streets that still felt unfinished. Livestock shared space with people. Irrigation channels cut across roads, reminding residents that survival depended on careful management of water. Architecture reflected restraint. Most structures were low and rectangular, built from local materials. Ornamentation was minimal. Even larger buildings favored symmetry and durability over decoration. Compared to the dense stone cities of Europe or the industrial centers of the American East, Salt Lake City appeared spacious and unfinished, as if always preparing for future growth. Yet this period marked a form of confidence. The city had endured its earliest hardships. Harvests were more reliable, trade routes were established, cultural life expanded through schools, choirs, newspapers, and gatherings. The population continued to rise, approaching levels that placed Salt Lake City among the significant urban centers of the region. This stability did not mean the absence of strain. Relations with the federal government were often tense. Outside authorities questioned the city's governance and social systems. Military presence nearby served as a reminder that isolation did not equal independence. These pressures shaped the city's public posture, encouraging caution rather than confrontation. Moments of disruption arrived without spectacle. Economic fluctuations affected supply lines. Droughts tested irrigation systems. Harsh winters slowed movement and trade. None of these events destroyed the city, but each left marks on its infrastructure and planning. Adaptation became routine. The most visible changes came through gradual transformation rather than sudden collapse. As national influence increased, legal and administrative structures shifted. Religious authority remained strong, but its control over civic life softened over time. New architectural styles appeared alongside older buildings. Brick facades
By the late
grew taller.
19th century,
Streets
Salt
became
Lake
busier.
City stood between identities. It was no longer a remote refuge, yet not fully absorbed into the national urban culture. Its population was diverse, though still shaped by a shared origin. The city carried traces of its founding ideals in its layout, its pace, and its restraint. Looking back from the present, the early city appears quiet and deliberate. Its wide streets seem almost empty, its buildings modest, its ambitions measured. But within that calm exterior was a persistent effort to impose order on uncertainty, to create permanence in an unfamiliar land. Salt Lake City did not rise through conquest or commerce alone. It grew through planning, repetition, and endurance. Each generation adjusted the city slightly, responding to pressures without abandoning the original framework. The grid remained, the center held. Today's city carries layers of that past beneath modern surfaces. Roads follow the same alignments. Neighborhoods still reflect early divisions of land and water. The mountains remained fixed, framing a place that has changed without forgetting its beginnings. This reconstruction offers only a quiet glimpse, a moment suspended in time, a city still forming, still negotiating its place. What survives is not just stone and street, but a pattern of thought, a belief that a city could be designed, maintained, and endured.